Hey y'all, Foxy here. This will be part 1 of what if Izuku was a hybrid dog. Now, I did make this episode previously, but it wasn't really downloading. I couldn't even get to the step where I could submit it to YouTube, so I had to completely delete it. Then something was off. It just wouldn't actually delete. I don't really know how to explain it. Basically, I just had to reset my entire, the app that I'm using to record. So I had to reset that entire thing, which was fun, kind of. Either way, I finally had time today to actually, record and have enough mental power to actually formulate something. Now, in the background, you might hear my dog barking, one of them, or you might hear this, something being pulled off tape. What were they called? Perler? Yeah, perler beads. And if you guys know anything about perler beads, you're able to make images out of them. Slowly but surely, you're able to make something out of them. Then you melt them down, and I use tape. The mold. Okay, hold on. Okay, the thing that you stick the perler beads to, I use tape and pull the perler beads off the image. I got a dinosaur kit, alright? I'm able to make perler dinosaurs. And soon, really quickly, I realized that by melting these beads, I was slowly melting my, the mold that I was using. I don't really know how to explain it, so basically I use tape to keep my stuff from melting, other than the beads. And I made a mistake. I dropped it on the ground. I don't know what I really did, but I did something and now all the beads are ruined. No, the tape is ruined, and I just said, fuck it, I'm going to just redo it. So you're going to be hearing me pulling perler beads off tape. I could have just said that. We're just going to get on with this story, so let's get this boat on the road, shall we? Our POV. Midoriya Izuku lived a life of simplicity after the war. He lost all of his friends, mentors, family, anyone that he held dear, so dearly, too close to his heart, were gone. And now he has a wound that always, and forever will bleed. Midoriya did try to make new friends. He tried to make a new family. But after the war, after he lost everything, nothing worked. Most of his friends, his family, are dead, and the rest are in a vegetative state in the hospital, basically just being forced to live while still having their heartbeat. They're dead, but they're just being forced to live in the bed. Midoriya Izuku achieved his goal, the goal that he wanted when he was 4. He became the #1 hero of Japan, then the world. And his name was carved into the mountains. His name to be known by all for centuries. The #1 hero. The man who ended the war with Shigaraki and All for One. The man who sacrificed everything for everyone. Midoriya Izuku achieved those titles, those names, the medals, the honor of being #1 hero. But it wasn't worth it to him, because there was no one there beside him. There was no Kachan, no Uraraka, no Tsuyu with her sarcastic but stern words, no Ozawa, no All Might. There's no one from Class 1A. Hell, even Shinzo wasn't there, with his 2.0 Azawa remarks. It hurt. So he lived a life of simplicity. Every day he had a set meal. Every day he went out at a certain time. Every day he worked and worked until the early mornings. Sorry, y'all, that was my brother, Hopefully you can ignore whatever the heck he's doing. I honestly don't understand what he's thinking. I wish I did, but I don't. Either way, let's continue on with the video, shall we? Never taking a vacation, never resting, only working, working, working. And Izuku generally didn't mind this hard life. In the back of his head, it was retribution. It was a punishment because he failed. He failed to protect his family, his mom, his brother in arms, his sister in arms. Anyone that he held so close died underneath his protection. So it was a self-punishment for him. At the end of his life, at 98, he died alone in his bed in the starry moon and sky. He died alone with a small smile, because finally he'll have some peace. Maybe one day, when he's reborn, he can forget all about this and maybe live a life differently to what he had. Maybe he'll be better, a better man, a better friend, a better brother, someone better, someone who can truly be called a man and a hero, more to than strangers, but to his family. Maybe he can just be a hero for them, just be a hero for his family and no one else. Maybe then his chest will not feel so numb, and the empty promises, the empty thanks, will finally be filled with something other than words and silence. When Izuku did awake, he awoke in a cold, dark area. It was hard to see, but Midoriya was quick to realize that something was clearly wrong with him. Because when he stood up, he wasn't on 2 legs. He was on 4. His fur was the color of his old hair, green and curly, luscious and unattainable. Something so wild, but yet so pretty. And Izuku also had black fur markings all over his body, resembling the freckles that he had when he was little. He remembered those times when he was picked on for them. Even when he was an adult, he always wore makeup to cover up the big majority of them. His suit covered all of them, really, but on his face he wore a lot of makeup. There was only those 8 freckles. Those 8 freckles no amount of makeup could ever cover. Izuku soon realizes that he's not in a area that he really understands. He knows he's in a laboratory. He knows that there are scientists experimenting. But it all didn't really catch up to him until he was actually put down on the table. And when he was being cut open and filled with metal. When his flesh was being torn apart and remade by metal alloys. When his eyes started to cry blood. He didn't realize it until then. He was actually an animal that these humans, his fellow humans, didn't understand. He couldn't hate them, but now he understood why Nezu hated scientists, or doctors, or anyone in a white lab coat. Now Izuku is afraid of white lab coats. It terrifies him to the bone. Izuku was in that laboratory for 3 to 4 years. Not a long time, but for a dog it was. But somehow his body never really stopped growing. Instead, it kept growing. Soon he was the size of a small car, and muscles all around his body, proving his strength. Well, most of his hair actually covered the muscles. Midoriya Izuku was a pit bull, Great Dane, and wolf mix. A very odd mix. But somehow it all somehow fit perfectly with him. The muscle build from the pit bull, the size of the Great Dane, and the fierceness of a wolf all matched him perfectly, at least in this form. One day, Izuku found a way to escape, and he took that opportunity by its balls and squeezed so tightly he may never let go of. That night he did escape, with a few bullet wounds, sure, but he escaped while setting the building on fire. Hell, Izuku didn't know how he even did it, but somehow he did, and he was quite proud of that. For a while he was in the woods, just living a life of simplicity again, running around being free, eating whatever the heck he could find that didn't taste or look too bad. And he felt relatively good. He was close to the city, sure, but it just felt good this way. He had no one to look after, no one to worry about, just himself. Himself and only himself. But sometimes in the late mornings or early at night, it hurt because Class 1A would always get in trouble, always around that time. Suyu would either say something so rude to Bakugo, he will blow up almost the entire Class 1A dormitory, or Mineta was back at one of his perverted things, and Jiro was either blasting music at him, or Zero was taping him up like a very disgusting silkworm. Great times, great memories that Izuku was slowly but surely forgetting about. That was until they came. Izuku didn't know what was happening until one stumbled close to him. One of the walking dead, flesh barely hanging on the bones, a jaw clearly broken and was hanging off by mere skin and tendons. Nails blackened and charred. It looked like the guy put his hands in the fire, with only bone remaining, somehow. Izuku, as if made for it, charged. He was already backed up in a corner, scared out of his damn mind, tail tucked in between his large legs. He just ran. He ran and jumped, and he was like a cannonball. With one vicious bite, the skull collapsed, and bright red, gray, and black matter flew out of the brain, into Izuku's mouth and onto the forest floor. It tasted and smelt awful. Izuku immediately puked whatever the heck was in his stomach out. Izuku didn't know what was going on, but he read and saw enough zombie movies to understand what the fuck was going on, and he was pretty sure the humans of this dimension, space, time, didn't have quirks, didn't have the abilities of his time. So he's pretty sure that this isn't normal. With Izuku's, past career, everything flew into instinct, and he ran towards the city, his paws digging into the earth. But Izuku was so far from the city, it would take hours or a day to actually get there. But it was no matter for him, he just ran. He ran and ran. Soon it was night, then it was morning. His paws, or the claws that he did have on his paws, were now gone. Instead, they started to bleed profusely. His paws were also very, very sore. Everything hurt, but Izuku couldn't feel it. He just ran, he ran and ran. The electricity that he had started to pulse around him, his quirks working in tandem to get rid of any obstacle out of his way. Tree branches, animals, twigs, traps, everything was being pushed aside or uplifted into the sky so he could run faster with no obstacles. But soon he heard a scream of a little girl, maybe 10 or 13. And as if something just flipped, he ran the other way, ran towards the screaming children. When he got there, he was almost ready to collapse. His body was so sore, he was starting to feel it. The exhaustion, the dehydration, the hunger was all now snowballing onto him. But he didn't stop. He just ran and ran. Soon he jumped as high as he could and latched his jaws onto the nearest undead, tearing, ripping, and clawing the monster apart. The beast was dead. He ran to the next and the next. There were 4, now there are none. There was 1 old man and 2 young girls. They were shivering and shaking while looking at the boy, or the monster. Izuku looked at them, slightly afraid, to see the fear, to see the panic in their eyes when they saw him. They all do that when they see him. Izuku didn't really mind in the beginning. It left him alone. They left him alone to breathe, to mourn, to understand himself. But no one wants to see those looks for a long time. No one really does. Maybe a manic or someone crazy would like that. A psychopath is a good option. But instead of seeing the fear in the old man's eyes, compared to the children, he saw pure something. But it wasn't negative, it was something positive. Maybe the man was thankful, maybe the man was amazed at Izuku's feat of killing these monsters. Something. But the man wasn't scared of him. And Izuku, without realizing it, felt so happy to not be afraid of. Without realizing it, his long, bushy tail started to wag. So viciously, it almost made him fly into the sky. And the old man looked at the giant dog. He had a mixture of emotions of the Walking Dead and the big bushy dog that came out of proverbial bushes and starts to chomp on the Walking Dead as if they were the next biscuit meal for the canines. But he started to feel an odd sense of emotions. None could really be named, but he was grateful. Because looking into those green eyes of the dog, he knew that this dog was not just a dog. Something just spoke intelligence, humanity. Something spoke. The old man sighed as he patted his legs 3 times, in a sign of, "Come here," as he walked to his rickety old truck and pulled it open. As he pulled it open, the 2 young girls run in, shaking and almost looking like they were about to pee their pants. They got in and went as far as they could away from the doggy. That the dog, knowing that the dog was more than it seemed. It had this innate sense of intelligence that only humans had. Maybe the dog was sentient now or something. But the man knew something was special about the dog. As he touched the dog's head, a name, a vague word, appeared in his head like the wind. It was soft and it caressed his skin, but didn't leave any marks. "Hey, buddy, I think I have the perfect name for you," the old man said as he scratched behind the dog's ear. Izuku, without realizing it, rubbed and pressed himself against the old man, feeling a sense of comfort. Not the type of comfort from a safe room or from family, but from some complete stranger that somehow, in their odd magical way, made you feel less alone. The old man reached into the back seat of the car where the little girls were. Somehow he was able to pull out a gigantic collar and placed it around the dog's neck quickly. The collar was bright red, and the metal part of it where the name would be engraved on, alongside with the address, was attached to the collar as well. It made this jingling sound, and the collar just barely fit around the dog's neck. Izuku was shocked. He was abnormous. He was as big as a small car, so his neck was fairly larger than other dogs. There was no way he could actually have a collar just made for him. "Don't worry, buddy. This collar was made 5 sizes too big for my own dog, and I thought it was funny enough and just kept it. They also somehow got the name wrong. I don't know how they did it, but they did. It's one big coincidence. But buddy, I have to get going, alright? I can't keep you with me all the damn time." As the old man said that, he shut the car door as the car zoomed away. Dust and dirt flew in the air, and Izuku felt a sense of loss. It was a odd feeling. But he just sat there, like one of those dogs from those old movies as they saw their owners go farther and farther away from them as they sat on the dirt, waiting as patiently as they could for their owners to come back to pick them up. After a few minutes, Izuku got up. He finally felt something. All the pain from running so damn fast finally caught up with him, and he needed to rest. And his paws were no good. They were completely covered in sores and blisters. Hell, he was bleeding so profusely he was sure that it would catch the Walking Dead's attention. But he didn't have any energy, so all he could do was lay beside a tree and sleep. The next day, as dawn rose, Izuku's eyes gleamed with light as he sat up slowly, his bones creaking with the movement. Hunger billowed from his stomach as a growl left his throat. Again, like the previous day, he got up and ran like a dart, weaving and running, jumping and leaping over trees, running underneath or running past the undead. He ran and ran and ran, because he once was the #1 hero, and the only thing that he truly loved to do was save people. And guys, this will be the ending of part 1. I really hope you guys like it. And I start school tomorrow. No, I don't want to know it. Damn it. I just want to complain so damn much. I'm pretty sure if I would have been paid to complain, I would be a billionaire by now. Because I complain a lot. And I actually said that to my Nana while we were at the store, and I just laughed. Because it sounds so wrong. No one loves a complainer. Yes, you can complain, but complaining so damn much, whereas basically your damn personality is not very fancy. But goddamn, I have to complain. Ugh, I don't want to go to school, but I need to. Fuck shiddly diddly do. But guys, I am sorry for the interruption. I hope you all have a good night or day. Toodaloo.